Very good morning and very warm welcome to everyone who is on this webinar. I have been given an opportunity to introduce our host and moderator for this webinar. Please welcome Mr. Harish Shetty. He is principal of Lokmanya Tilak Institute of Architecture and Design. The wise and intellect being has been named in the field, and his success backs from the 22 years of applaudable experience. He has worked hard to reach at the position where he holds the rest dream to climb. Gone were the days when he served as an associate professor for a good period of 14 years. He starves the success that he achieved to be enjoyed by the students too, and as a result, he constantly engages them towards architecture by adding value to the subject of architecture. Here, his foremost priority is design, architectural theory, advanced building construction, and working drawings through studio programs. Apart from these, he also focuses on the importance of hands on workshops, seminars, and reading sessions, and of course, the site visits, which adds to the practical knowledge in students. So, Mr. Harish, very warm welcome to you again, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Okay. So today's webinar is Future Ready Homes Design Trends and Post-Pandemic. Next slide, please. Yeah. These are some simple instructions to everybody on the panel. Okay. So I welcome everybody. All the attendees mics are muted for avoiding accidental disturbances. We will have question and answer session towards the end of the webinar. Till then, if you have any questions, or use question and answer section and type your question, moderator will read the question if found relevant. You will be given access to unmute yourself. Webinar will be recorded, hence it is you miss any point. If you miss any point, we will post the recording of the same after it's over. Next, please. Yeah. So I'll introduce the first speaker. Before that, I welcome Hiten. Warm welcome to Hiten to being here. Okay. So so here I invite the first panelist on board, that Hiten Sethi, Managing Director, Hiten Sethi as Architects. Introduction to Hiten is no different. Most of us know him. He's a architect profession, and he's creative and intellectual, been serving the industry for a good captive period. The projects put forward by him have been recognized, worthy, and the eye for detail gives out transparency and perfection throughout. The ambitious man aims to mark pan-India presence for the firm, with a promise to plan and execute mesmerizing and eye-catching projects. Out of all the structures he has designed, the famous and the talk of the town has been the Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation, that is NMMC headquarters situated in Belagavi, which I'm sure we all have admired in the day for its breathtaking infrastructure inside out, and the night where we have stunned with the constant beautiful lighting, making us awestruck. Okay, this is also India's first green municipal building and has entered Limca Book of Records with 3 citations. Well, his expertise spread wide in the various streams, including commercial, residential, institutional, administrative, transportation, hospitality, social, and healthcare projects and master planning. Today, he will be talking about the evergreen trends, often make it difficult to swap the designs with the new entrants. Often the new designs are introduced even before one could get a hang of the existing one, where challenges are faced everywhere. The way in which one deals with has to be proactive, as passive mindset don't work to achieve the desired wonders. The real estate humanistic pillars have to stand strong while the building and the future ready homes. Let him explain in the most innovative and helpful way. So over to Hiten, please.
Good morning, everybody. Harishi, thank you for such a large perfect
Thank you.
introduction. I mean, I'm first of all, thank you for inviting me on this particular panel discussion. If my voice is audible and clear, then I can proceed further with the presentation.
Yes, Hiten, I think it is.
Great. So the topic is really very interesting. In fact, future-ready homes was something what we used to be talking pre-COVID, and post-COVID. I think there is a new tagline which has been now sort of uh, added, and that is the trends which will dictate the designs due to this pandemic, whatever we see right now. So if I were to start on this particular thing, so we all are going through an unprecedented phase in life, and the challenges are being understood and realized every day. I think with the kind of spread, we all are having a particular issue that we still are trying to understand what is this pandemic and what is the effect of this pandemic on our human habitat and environment all around. So I just endeavored to as a small 7 to 9 slide presentation in which I'll just run through the challenges what were there. I mean, pandemic is just a form which we see because we're not identified and we're not addressed those kind of challenges earlier, or prefer to ignore those particular things earlier. And this is one sort of reaction, and I don't know really how many kind of reactions may are still we have to expect to teach us or to discipline us to be a little bit more conscious about our activities in terms of environment and preservance of environment. So, so let's understand first the challenges. What uh, challenges we have in understanding the reason why these kind of extremities are happening worldwide. Um, to understand how human habitat will evolve eventually after this epidemic and understanding the challenges, I think we need to understand the basic of what issues are happening. You see, we have to be sensitive about the urbanization which is randomly happening. There was a challenge by there was a solution by our Prime Minister of India that we need to have 100 smart cities, and somehow somewhere down the line we didn't see it happening in greenfield projects. Of course, brownfield projects, we saw many cities becoming more efficient in their socio-economic formats and development. Just for information that worldwide, I mean, there are more than 41 mega cities which have been conceived by 2030, and we just 10 years to go. So 41 mega cities means a population which will hold at least 10 lakh population per city minimum. Imagine what kind of population urbanization are we really thinking as a greenfield projects which are going to happen worldwide. Due to these random urbanizations, or you can also say forced urbanizations, there have been demographic changes in which people have been forced from large houses in the villages to shrinking housing households in the cities. The general population, the working population, the working years increasing, and aging population being visible more in urban environments. Multiple generations living together in small places and small spaces in the cities tend to be very common nowadays in cities like metro cities or all these cities which have a large density of population. Sustainability, I won't say we have ignorance to sustainability, but we tend to ignore the sustainability. So though there have been various formats by government by way of regulations that they've tried to implement the sensitivity of everybody towards sustainability. But I think what is needed right now is the voluntary initiatives which need to come out of people. I mean, why do we have to save Earth where somebody else has to tell us how we should behave on this planet to give our future generations right to live? And most important thing is public interest in green living. I mean, there has to be a general consensus, a general awareness that why these green livings are more essential. Uh, Affordability, again, you say the affordability factors have been identified for last 6 to 7 years. by various schemes in which government is promoting a better, good urban lifestyles to everybody by giving affordable housings. But the shortage still exists. The property ownership still see low takers, and there is a very increased income gap between rich and poor in a particular city. I mean, you have two different extreme cases coexisting with each other with a different lifestyle. It just seems that it's a different world altogether. And off lately, the new introduction of digital economy, where we have online centric people, play life, growing of share economy, popularity of remote work. So it has its own pros and cons for working on this particular thing, because the kind of balance which is required to put all these particular things together through this digital format in economy or construction or livelihood is very important. So I think these were the basic requirements which we saw over the years, which have been happening, and this is the reason why we are where we are now. Trends which have been shaping to the till now, what we have been doing is we have been trying to work on yesterday basis of identifying and addressing to these kind of issues which we identified in the last slide. So what we started doing is we started having a better construction technology. So we started work for a better outputs and more perfect side. There was a particular way in which the digital collaboration tools were introduced. The drones in most of the sectors are being used now. Even firefighting now, we see that there are drones which are used to put in these particular things. But the problem, after creating a particular problem, construction technology is being introduced to cope the mankind with the kind of further requirements because of sheer momentum of progress what is happening worldwide. Then construction methods have been tentatively going that fast and more efficient. Wastages have been all these particular things towards sustainability, and all these things have one particular thing in common, that you have to have optimized whatever resources you are going to go, what resources are you going to use for these particular things. So modular constructions are being seen, prefabrication, prefab structures are getting into thing, and most important, what is happening is the integrating of these systems at many places. Building Buildings are getting smarter. From the last 1.5 decades, we have seen the technology showing results which are unbelievable. The kind of damage or kind of contribution to environment and society now is become very analytical. You actually can analyze what is the carbon footprints of each and every buildings what we make, or the environment what we create in whichever fashion we want to do. We can analytically work out a particular strategy in which we actually know how the climate is going to behave with context to our creations, whatever we are going to do. So all architects and engineers prefer to work on the same philosophy, that the whole particular thing becomes and talks in synergy with each other, becomes effective in a particular way, that they coexist for a better betterment of mankind and are less harmful to the environment. Then there are excess and distributions trends which keep on changing for this particular thing. All these particular things, there have been over the trends where we see that there have been trends of direct sales, in which each and every project whichever comes in by government or by any other responsible developers are having a direct interaction patterns through media on these particular things. And this is how the trends are over changing. Earlier there was a segment and layering of you can say real estate developer, brokers or professionals who used to actually be a midman. But now I think the technology with the kind of IT sector going and along with construction industry, the things have become very transparent. And I think it's just you are away a click away. You have the money, you click away. You don't have the money, bank is a click. The bank is click away. So everything is moving towards more efficient kind of transparent sync systems. And of course, the new kind of financial packaging is going to come in. As you see, that government has been proposing affordable housing. So you see there are new microfinancing trends which are being seen in the market never before, where stamp duties have been reduced, government statutories wise it's been promoted. The rates of banks have come down for building the purchases which are below 30 lakhs or say 25 lakhs, and so on and so forth. Then the latest trend which is happening right now, where people have realized that there's a finance market which can make all the difference to the construction industry, good for bad. So there is a new concept of a circular economy which is being introduced right now in Europe. I don't know much whether it's being introduced in India, but yeah, Europe is seeing lots of these kind of system in where a complete ecosystem cycle is being maintained and created, so that the capex cost gets equated with the opex cost, and the consumer itself always remains cash handy in terms of purchase and investments into these kind of projects. A small example I can just give you to make you understand that it's something like you have a building, and the Philips come and tells you that you don't have to spend any money on your electrical bulbs or something. So that will be provided uh, by Philips. But at the same time, they also tell you that we are going to charge you per running of this particular project. So your capex cost goes nil, and OPEX cost gets equated. The capex gets converted into OPEX cost over the years of life cycle of the building. So these are the new trends which are coming in. So there is a maximum reuse of products, because these particular products are going to be reused again and again. And then the high quality of reuse of raw materials is also becomes viable, so that there's less wastage and most optimization of the whole thing. So these are the basic trends which I feel as the industry moves out in the housing sector, the things which are going to work out. But if you talk about the new dwelling types which have emerged to meet this demand, of course, it's very important for an architect to identify what is needed in the market and in the society. And according to that, the whole projects have to come up, or the whole solutions have to be provided. Most important, as I already told you, that affordability has become a very critical matter, because since 2008 we have not seen very stable market, and especially in India after 2014 and demonetization. We have really seen the financial crunch, I think, across each and every industry whatsoever. As I normally say, the landscape of businesses have changed. So, but somehow we as professionals are very reluctant to change our lifestyle, our working style. We have to really start looking into the commodity providing services in a different perspective, and provide more optimized services under one roof. So affordability becomes a very critical matter, which has compact layouts, taller buildings, low cost inexpensive materials, fast cost effective constructions, and most importantly is limited use of knowledge to minimize costs. So basically the whole affordability would be captured into these things. Then the co-sharing spaces in commercial started, and you will be surprised that we are already doing one a 4 million square feet project in Kandivali, which we are converting all flats into co-sharing flats now, and we're trying to sell it like the simple commodity. So those are something which is a new trend, seeing even sharing is caring. That's what I used to say. Now it's actually becoming more economic sense to everybody on the same. So they have shared multi-purpose halls, kitchens, dining room, gyms, and whatever potential areas can be get comedy events, because more kind of inclusive kind of comedy spaces. Then they have potential for subsidy for short-term rentals, which are required for a younger generations who are migrating to the urban cities. And finally, it may also be important that the whole rents and outgoings can be consolidated in terms of billing, and the things effectively costed to each and every individual. Of course, eco-friendly has always been top on my line, at least personally. And so we are moving towards making all the designs zero waste designs, carbon neutral designs, bioengineered, and by using innovative materials. And of course, again, as we go to the technology part, technology plays a very important role in enhancing the sustainability of any kind of project. Flexibility in design functions. Markets are changing so fast. I mean, after COVID, I'm sure that most of the commercial spaces are going to see will struggle to survive initially for a couple of years, because people have understood the power of working from home. And so there will be definitely a reflection of these particular things in emerging trends of designing of residential also. So the flexibility needs to be more appropriately designed. The prefabrication construction should also be modular units, so it can be repeated at time with no extra cost whatsoever the designs may be. Interiors could be raw, can be changed into people's mood and these things, but mostly in the modular form. You see the IKEA and all, people have found it more very great potential in India to have these kind of things. Stylish, of course. I mean, a man is dictated by the kind of trend which he lives in, and but overall, futurically, aesthetically pleasing designs definitely will still be in the vogue. Unique features created in the state-of-art construction methods will be there. Now, COVID, like you have used to have air-conditioned buildings. Now there will be more appropriate kind of filters which are going to be used, UV lights which will be used, so that any kind of these pandemics taken care in the air-conditioned environment. So these are the kind of different trends which will be happening in terms of engineered solutions for these kind of designs. And of course, the most important thing, healthy. So built-in wellness amenities such as air filtration, purification, sensors of track air track quality, indoor air quality is going to be very important. Water quality, lighting quality. Panoramic is seen in even the PCI, so it's very important for us to even have our solid waste management systems appropriately disinfected from time to time, or perhaps use a particular filtration method in which we can control such kind of systems. Multi-unit dwellings may include communal wellness centers, because that has become the first aid kind of thing. In today's calamity, we are actually thinking of having community halls which can accommodate these kind of isolation centers in each and every society. So you see how the markets have started responding. So now we come to a particular concept that what is future ready home markets to sustain, what should be, what are going to be the principles. So the first principle, of course, the thing has to be frictionless. There has to be, it has to be at ease. So it should be easy to use, subtle, and ever present. It should be economical and must be affordable to the masses. Most important, automated. Most important is, you see lots of WhatsApps are moving around how the lifts are going to behave, or water taps are going to behave. So lots of integrations are going to happen in our daily usages of things, in which we need to conserve our hygiene. We have to preserve our systems also, and it becomes an easy and frictionless part of our lives. And last important thing is aesthetics. Functionality with style have to be intertwined. The final package has to be aesthetically and conveniently appealing to the masses. So if you see, how these particular things have been trending from 2000, that whole thing from a single control device, you see things are happening. They used to have automated buttons, and product automation was single based. Then they became a two-way, talking to each other. The building performance system started moving into a particular system. And now we are talking about city integrations, where we have the IoT and full integrations, which are moving in all together to have a very good ideal solutions. Apple, Google, Samsung, they have actually the electronic powerhouses who have actually given us the access to unlimited technologies, and these technologies are working together with each other to provide a better life for everybody. So if I just want to put it, it's not only limited to my living space, it goes up to my workspace. I can even control the oxygen levels and carbon dioxide levels into CO2 levels in indoor air quality through these kind of integration systems. Then, of course, we're talking on largest community spaces, their intelligence is worked into. So, right from automation, integration, intelligence, so AI has become the most important part of everybody's life. These three principles can be integrated into a small living space also, and can be integrated for large community space also. So that's how the things work out. Now we started with seeing that what kind of systems were introduced. We used to have locks into this thing. Open garage used to be sensor based. Control shades of light. So we are basically seeing a particular thing that the things have become touch free. So all these particular things are touch free. So these are more sensor based and intelligent systems in which will actually have, you basically, a man is walking and basically walking isolated with all systems on his mobile, on his control, in whatever way you think. Right from temperature control to everything is into these particular things. Now, future homes, if we like to really go into the deeper part of it, uh, surfaces, as an architect, it is very essential for us to work on the surfaces of whatever we choose and whatever areas we choose to maintain the hygiene and the things. So what will be the effect of different kind of cooking systems and cooking patterns, which will have dictate you the type of typologies or materials need to be done. Depending upon mood, the whole bedrooms are being designed into 3D bedrooms in which they have smart books interactions, health room interactions, toilets have got into, in bathrooms you have your smart mirrors happening, which can actually take your control of your temperature. So every time, for every part of your body, you are linked with the health, you're linked with your leisure, you're linked with entertainment, you're linked with your lifestyle into the whole system. I think what's going to happen in the future is it's going to be very well integrated systems, not only in terms of the usages of the people, but even the core soul of a particular home in terms of services or MEP, which will have sensors, motion detectors, wall-mounted this thing, thermostats, and so on and so forth. I think the whole unit can be called a remote-controlled smart home in a particular way that everything is talking to itself. You have mood lightings now, you have mood musics now, you can actually, if you know yourself well, you know your patterns, design patterns, the house can start talking to you in your own language. I think that's what I would like to conclude. Since I was given 15 minutes to talk on this, I would like to conclude on the same thing that design challenges well identified will always provide a well identified solutions. So regarding the pandemics, there will be these kind of calamities which are going to come, which are going to go. I think SG solutions will also always provide a perfect a perfect base and a perfect shelter for any human being to be isolated from such kind of pandemics if the person is conscious and disciplined enough to implement it. With that, I must thank you for your time and patience to hear me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiten. Well, that was too many issues you have put all together in a very neat format. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let's move on and welcome the second panelist. That's Dr. Rohit Sane, founder, Madhav Bagh Institute of Hospitals and Clinics in India. Introduction. This one is big people. So Dr. Rohit Sane made us all proud with the conceptualization of the idea of ancient Indian medical science. Ayurveda holds a major role in cure of chronic cardiac disease, which further gave rise to and prescribed well-established therapies that work wonders towards treating chronic chronic heart failures. We all have our roots attached to ancient Indian medical science in some way or the other. So this definitely sounds like a step towards bigger, better days. His education background climbs back from modern medicine, after which he also undertook meticulous research into Ayurveda. His authored 7 books on cardiology, publication named his cure for heart failure, reversal therapy, and took his work to an international level by introducing the findings of forums like findings in forums like World Cardiology Congress and Asian Preventing Cardiology Society. Today, he will be talking about a healthy home in the HubSpot of healthy living, which we all want to have in our environment. Building rooms that create wellness and breathable atmosphere works like cherry on the cake. When a home structure is designed to bestow physical health, the aspects of natural boost the mental health and the freshness and the sense of positivity all around. With the recent trends, demands have maintained strong foothold towards moving into a home with healthy indoors environment, rich bases. Few of the finger points are air quality, water, light, fitness, and nourishment. So over to you, Rohit. Rohit, you're mute, I think.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Shetty.
Yeah.
Thank you for the brief introduction that you have gone ahead with. After a beautiful talk of Mr. Sethi, I think I am going to be a bit short than what Mr. Sethi has been with. To go ahead with, as you have just mentioned, what is most important for today's life about having a good health is going to be our immunity. If at all we build our immunity in such a way that we will be able to fight against a number of viruses, bacteria, and the various types of biological attacks that are going to happen in the future, we should be always building our immunity to a very good level. Now, when we build our immunity, the the equivalent factor in this is going to be the viruses or the bacteria or the germs that would be keeping on attacking on our body here and there. So here, what is the most important thing is about building homes which will help us to reduce down or minimize such kind of contamination through n number of ways. That was going to be one thing. And second thing is going to be building homes which is going to help us to build our immunity in our home itself. Like what Mr. Sethi have explained in his brief presentation was a few points that I could collect from there was obviously, yes, hygienic conditions and having super clean indoors is obviously going to be non-negotiable, no doubt about it. Along with that, what is going to be important is going to be good amount of sunlight that should enter the house, as well as good amount of windy places that should be there inside the house, so that we should not be tempted to use any kind of air conditioners or something like that. As we all know that coronavirus has normally a tendency, has normally a stable condition inside the cooler temperatures, and now when the temperature of India is normally at a very good level, the rate of deaths in India has always been seen to be a very low level due to coronavirus. But at the same time, if at all we put on the air conditioners in our house, obviously, yes, the whole virus contamination in the whole house might be increasing, and that might be the basic reason why the number of coronavirus is going on increasing in the whole nation right now. When the temperature was high in the early summers, obviously people must have put more amount of air conditioners, and that is where the problem must have happened. That could be one of the reasons. So here I would like to put up a point in which the future homes, the future construction should be in such a way where minimum use of air conditioners would be required. More amount of fresh breathing air should be available for each and every person who stays in the house. That is going to be a bit more important thing. Along with that, what is going to be more important thing is going to be about thermally comfortable spaces. Like for example, if at all I close out my windows and I keep myself in a shut room, it's going to be very difficult for me to be inside the room. Hence, the only answer is going to be the air conditioner that has to go on. So somewhere or some methods or some ways that it could help the room to stay cool, so that we don't have to go ahead with some kind of air conditioners. As a customer, as a layman, I would like to put up this point onto it. Going through the health point of view, if at all we see, as a whole, when patients do meet us, what do we understand is about 80 to 90% of India is at a point where work from home has become a norm for most of the Indians. Now, when work from home is being seen, I would like to put up some points which a normal house should have when an employee has to do a job from his home itself. So few points I would like to put across. The first is going to be the home should be built, or else my room should be built in such a way that I should be able to conduct my normal activities through that room. Many a times when the early phase of coronavirus began, and most of our employees, now Madhavbag has about more than 1,000 employees right now, and most of these employees, when they were working from home, we could see that their houses were not built so as they could work from home as such. So in the future, if at all this trend is going to be the trend as such, then in that case, the homes that would be built should be those kind in which the employees should be able to work from home in a good professional manner. That would be the first thing. Now, when the employee goes on for work from home, a good consistent schedule should be planned by the employee when we work through the home. And this is going to be important for the interiors aspect to be built on. Secondly, the most important thing is going to be technology is going to be the answer, as Mr. Sethi already mentioned into it. Technology is going to be a very, very important question to be answered by each and every developer as such, because if at all technology is not available in the house, it is going to be a big challenge for the individual. Like for example, when we go through lifts, when we go for the car parkings, when we go through the areas that many people must have already gone through, contamination through that areas by the viruses is very, very high, and that is what we need to avoid. So maybe we could have some maybe booths by which sanitization booths could be implanted in the societies itself. That could help us. Maybe lifts or maybe the doors, the knobs would be in such a way that we don't have to touch those doors, knobs, and all these things. The lifts, maybe some technology might be used by which the lifts could be arranged in this way that we don't have to press the buttons, because that is the most important way by which the coronavirus can get contaminated all over and the spread could increase. That would be one. Second is going to be the most important, is building up the immune system by self mechanism, and that is going to be exercise. So building up a place in your individual house where you could exercise to a very good level, some kind of aerobic exercises, yogasana, pranayam, meditation. And meditation is going to be a very, very important thing, because as what we see, the negative impact that has been creating on our minds due to this kind of the negative news that are around us, that always create an impact by which our immune system gets depressed due to the negative thoughts that come to our mind. So whenever the stress hormones called adrenaline and noradrenaline would get secreted, the negative thoughts in our mind are going to reduce down our immunity. So meditation is going to be a very, very important tool that everybody could be using to reduce down the stress that they normally bear. And a place where a person can meditate in his house is going to be very, very important. Along with meditation, good amount of yogasana, pranayam, and aerobic exercises, a place for that, where an individual can actually do some kind of aerobic exercises is going to be a very, very important point. Along with that, food is going to be a very important thing. In case of food, having a low carbohydrate meal is going to be important, and building up the whole infrastructure inside the house so that all these things would be readily available. A good amount of water, good amount of air, good amount of sunlight coming inside the house is again going to build up the immunity. Along with that, the most important thing is going to be like, for example, in the future, when we go ahead, now when the lockdown has ended to a certain extent, we could see there are n number of cars and n number of vehicles running on the road right now, and people are not following the norms of social disconnect that we are supposed to go ahead with. Now, in this case, what I would expect, some kind of development, some kind of interiors, if at all we could design in this way, that relatives are going to visit each and everybody's house. That is not going to reduce down after some time. So maybe some kind of moldable or foldable partitions can be built up inside the house itself, that whenever the relatives come in, we could have some kind of changes in the house itself, wherein no major interior changes would be required, but some kind of things by which the transmission of this virus would be controlled to a certain extent. That is what I would like to put across. And the most important point is going to be keeping our mental stress low is going to be very important. A house, a building, or a structure which has been surrounded by buildings all around, we are not able to see the nature outside, and nature is the most positive thing that can be seen, and the impact of watching that nature, watching birds around us, watching the trees and plants and the flowers around us is going to be most important. So a house which would be able, an individual which will be able to watch the nature outside, the rains going on outside, that is going to be the most positive thing that is going to happen on an individual's mind. So these points I would like to put up, by which future generation should be able to live their life happily and healthily by building up their immunity with a good amount of exercise and good diet and good nature around us. So that's all from my side.
Thank you, Rani. Thank you so much for a lovely piece of information that you have shared. So we move forward. I hope you all are getting to learn something important and will aid your future endeavors. Okay. Here, now we go on with the third panelist, Zenobia Kodaji, manifestation coach and TEDx speaker. Okay. Zenobi is a leading professional face in field of numerology, other astrological aspects. The soft-spoken, goal-driven lady has been motivating and pouring out her knowledge through mediums of YouTube and her own channel that has over 300 videos and 2 million viewership. Her skills have served towards the success of other where celebrities and companies have enjoyed doubling in their existing turnover. She also stands strong in as a grooming consultant for companies with beauty pageants. Her numerology, uh, Kabahat rooms and training for soft skill abundance for 30 years are definitely being show stealer of her owning her. Her expertise in relationship mastery are an outcome of her dedication and results of her qualification, neuro linguistic programming, NLP, in relationship mastery. Uh, Today she will be talking about real estate and Vastu Shastra have have been going hand in hand since long time. This unbreakable uh, mold heads back to traditional years of astrology, where design and concepts took an innovative plunge. Energy efficient homes are being the uh, new background in today's designs. The energy homes and an epicenter of growth, receptiveness of mind, good vibes, healthy living, uh, wouldn't have been great to invest in homes that provide shelter, which is a lot more of treasure of inner peace. This would be achieved with a deep observation and knowledge of the same. Here, what has to be prioritized in the placement that is the living equality. Ma'am, here we go.
Thank you so much. What a lovely speaker Dr. Rohit was. What lovely views he gave. I'm Zenobia. For the last 30 years, I've been a manifestation coach, teaching everyone how to make your dreams come true. And Vastu-wise, just 4 simple tips I would really like to share with you all for good living. The next time when you're choosing a home, make sure you don't buy a home across a church, graveyard, laundry, anything that has a negative energy and a draining energy. When you sleep, keep your toes never facing south. South is Yama, or the god of death. These simple tips: don't sleep under beams and columns. Have a single door opening clockwise and inwards. And make sure that your home has a lot of light. In homes, it's very important when you're buying a home or having homes, keep your doors and windows open. Sunlight coming in, air and ventilation is what will keep you healthy, strong and fit. And make sure that the vibration of your home is good. So don't do jharu after sunset. These little tips that might sound very silly are so important. Don't sweep your home. Lakshmi ji comes in at sunset. Avoid beams and columns. Keep your bathroom door shut. These are just 5 or 6 simple tips. And keep your potty seat down. Don't let the mirror reflect your toilet seat. And in the kitchen, water and fire should not be opposite each other. Just now after the program, go home and check. Is your stove opposite your fridge? Is your microwave opposite your tap? Any hot and cold, absolute opposite, just slide it a little away. I hope these tips have helped you. Thank you. Any other question for me?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other question that you have particularly?
We will take it up in the panel discussion, please.
Sure. An important thing is that your inner engineering of your house remain very important. Like a home has 4 pillars, the foundation has to be very strong and your piling has to be very good. In your home, spiritually, your 4 pillars that you put, the effect you put to your children, the grounding that you give them, the respect that you teach them, the attention that you pay your children are the 4 pillars that will keep them strong. Then they will never commit suicide. They will never go wrong. If you give your children 2 things, time and attention, that And don't buy them a video game, a mobile, and think mera kaam ho gaya as a father. Give them your presence. The presence for children is what is important, and not the simple presents that are given. Because foundation in anything is very strong, and core values. If the core values of your family is together, all good will come your way. Put a value and core value in the pillar of strength, of positivity, no gossiping, caring, sharing. If you can put these values, do it to your home, do it to your neighbors, do it for your country, do it for everything, then life will be so beautiful and so strong. And your main door should be a single door opening clockwise and inwards. And I always say, where there's light, my guru used to say, there's love and joy. So light a diya. It's so funny that our Indian Sanskriti and our values are today coming up after the COVID. Now we say, leave your chappals outside the door. It was said millions of years ago in our Hindu Shastras. Have a bath before going to sleep. Wash your hands. These are such simple things. Don't keep your broom in the kitchen. That's a place of worship. Food is as good as money, it's health. And today's day and age, health is the new wealth. Wherever I teach, I'm a TEDx speaker. I never forget to tell you, you are the most important person in your life. Please take care of your health. Everything else will fall into place. Love yourself first. How many of you all have ever touched your heart and said thank you to your heart for beating relentlessly for the last how many years? I'm 57. So I have said thank you to my heart. How many of you all have said thank you? Thank your body. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. The most important thing is not only forgiving others, but forgive yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. That is the secret to good living. Hold your family together. And as far as properties are concerned, love your home. Touch your Mother Earth every day. We touch our parents' feet. When while doing that in India, we are actually touching the earth, Mother Earth. It's so important. We live in Mumbai Devi. Take the blessings of Mumbai Devi. Believe me, this huge hurricane that came, cyclone came and left. It's because of the blessings of wonderful energies like Siddhi Vinayak, like Mahalakshmi, Mumbai Devi. We have to invoke blessings into our lives. That is the beauty. Don't take life for granted. Right now, we are so close to our families with lockdown. One will understand how important family relationships are. Work on them. And I tell all the ladies, I cook myself every single day. Spend a little time, get a person to clean your house, do everything. Get someone to cut your vegetables, but cooking you do. Because what you're cooking is the health that's going into the body. Can you imagine a lady coming very angrily, making atta, with gussa making food? That vibration is going into your body. And God forbid if your child asks for 2 more rotis, she will grumble, then she will go to the kitchen, look as if atta is there, then she'll make it, and her thought will be, oh God, is that boy going to have another roti? So vibration is important, but a grandmother will just run, not bother whether there's old atta, make it again, a mother or a grandmother. And so happy, she'll think, oh, I hope my son eats 2 more roti, my daughter eats 2 more chapatis. That's the difference of good living. Home is not only a home. Think very carefully, grow plants. I firmly believe every school student, I have a school of my own, Besan Montessori. I tell all other schools, give 1 plant to every child and let them plant that plant in their building. Can you imagine how many children there are in the world? If every 3 months they plant 1 tree and look after it in their society, how much better in the next 50 years the world would be. Grow plants, grow your tomatoes at home. Good fresh vegetables. Try it, it's so simple. organic gardening in your balcony. You just need 6 pots. Just start somewhere. When you give back to nature, nature will give back to you. And when you're moving into a new home or every day even, take a steel glass of water and pour it to the sun. It's very important. It's a very important tip. Pour it into a plant. So all the 5 elements are got. Water, fire, the sun, earth, a metal glass, and a tree will grow. These are so important for you to be strong, for you to understand your home, the energies of your home, and to understand how powerful nature is. It's about going back to nature. Take holidays and picnics. Those that have money, buy holiday homes. Please, eventually all those that have homes in the mountaintops, in villages, in countrysides, believe me, 80 years from today, those homes will be the most expensive. Cities will go have a lot of problems of water, of supply. If you can be near water, be near bore wells, buy a place which has a lake, a river flowing. This is so beautiful. Invest your money wisely when you're buying a new property. And life will be so beautiful. Value your family, value your loved ones, value your friends, value your core values. I truly believe in life's core values. Today, write down with your family together what are the 5 core values you believe in. Please do this. You have no idea. Your child might believe in something wonderful, your husband, but you've never got together and talked about it. Do that. And last, before I finish, you are the sum total of the 5 people around you. The 5 people that your child keeps company with, your child will become that. The 5 food that you give your family, fruit you give, the health will be that. The 5 books you read will show your mind, how beautiful your mind is. And the 5 exercises you do, breathing, meditation, yoga, that will improve your health. Thank you so much. Have I overcrossed my time, Harish?
No issues. No, nothing. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming.
God bless you. God
After
bless you.
with a small fractured hand, I think you recently. So thank you for
I
being
just
here, even though
tell
you
you.
have a fractured hand, you have come
No,
on
no.
live.
Because
Yeah,
I
we
believe
appreciate that.
in being positive and grateful to God. And before I end, just one thing,
Please.
I tell the whole world, start a gratitude journal. Forget everything else. Every day, write down 3 good things that happen. And instead of sending stupid WhatsApp, send it to your friend. Today, this wonderful thing happened. If you do that, all good will come your way.
Sure,
Count your
sure.
blessings. Thank you
That's a
so much.
very good
God
point you
bless
have
you.
made. Thank you so much for being
God
with
bless
us
you all.
today. Yeah. So that was a good one. Hello. Let's have the 4th panelist. He is an architect, Faizan Farooq, founder and principal architect of Vastu V. Okay. Faizan Farooq is an architect by profession and is extremely talented and dedicated towards his work. His 10 years of acknowledgeable experience and forte have contributed well in making him a leading man in the industry. His designs and ideas reshape imagination and bring them to reality and the utter perfection and details that couldn't be overlooked. He caves to new viewpoint out of the existing expectations and delivers you thoughts in a way that you cannot think of. He has designed multiple projects across India. His imagination ranges from a basic structure that can easily slide up to a luxuriant, elegant masterpiece. Both will offer comfort and lifestyle that suits our demands by still keeping your pockets fuller. Today, he will be talking about the pollution and the fast-moving lives need a nature green vibe to soothe their souls and make them breathe the environment and rich ambience. As you move close to nature, you immerse into a joy of living and find your inner peace within the beauty of fragments that trees and forest hold. Homes and societies have to generate positive energy by swinging to and forth towards nature and making all the moments count for a special memory to be remembered and cherished forever. Over to you, Faizan.
Good morning, Harish.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah,
welcome. Is it audible?
Yeah, we can listen.
Okay. Hi. Good morning, everybody. This is Faizan Ahmad Farooqi. I'm a Bangalore-based architect running a firm called Vastavit. Harish, thanks a lot for that wonderful introduction. So so the very topic itself, it says the nuances of urban and social forestry with respect to the future-ready homes and societies. It's a very interesting topic in itself. It covers a lot of things which I think the panelists earlier have touched upon, especially Dr. Rohit and even architect Hiten Sethi. So let me elaborate on it, and then we'll just move forward with a small presentation and this thing. Is it sharing? The screen is sharing?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
You can take on the slide mode, please.
No, is it shared?
Yeah, the screen is shared. You can put it onto slide mode if you want.
Yeah. Is it seen?
It's there. Please continue.
Yeah. So the nuances of urban and social forestry. So it's a very interesting topic as such. When we talk about forestry and landscaping, there's a very fine line between the two. But then, it is basically something to do with plants and stuff like that, where landscaping has to do with more of ornamentation, and forestry is more natural. So when we talk about the impact which a forest can have in urban life, it is something which is the call of today. And post-COVID, we have seen that when everybody has started to stay back into the houses, when they're staying in the houses, which are just concrete structures, the greenery, and there is greenery missing inside the house. So that's one thing which I think Zenobia ma'am also spoke about, where we need to bring in that landscape, where we need to bring in that greenery into our own houses. With the new concept of living inside the house post COVID-19, and then looking into the aspect in future where I think there'll be a lot of work from homes, and there are a lot of people working not from the workspaces, but within the premises they are living in. The call for putting in or bringing in nature within the houses, or bringing in the outside in, will be very, very important. So this is something to do what we are doing at the moment, is creation of forest. And as an architect, when we look into it, there are two ways that I see in the whole system, where we need to look up at a micro level and at a macro level. So when we talk about the micro level stuff, we are talking about when we are living within the houses, it's a smaller space. So what is it that we can do to get that greenery into our lives and things like that? We cannot grow forests inside the house for sure, unless if it's a small apartment dwellings and things like that, unless until you have a bigger place. For that, yes, landscaping, a small landscaping ornamentation can always be done within the premises, within your houses. But what that will do is it will give you spaces, the spaces outside can be developed into a landscape and forestry. So we have worked upon something, and in conjunction with a firm called Forest, where we are forming forests, and the impact that it has got on a society is really, really good. Because imagine today what is happening is, as per the article, I'll just quote the thing, which was submitted in, or basically published in the 2012 New York Times, which said about, and the topic title was Ecology of Disease, which said the kind of loss that we are having today with respect to the trees and the forest is causing a lot of problems and diseases which are developing on day-to-day basis. For a very simple reason, there were a lot of trees which were balancing out these viruses and bacteria which are being cut away. And due to that, a lot of these viruses and diseases are spreading with the humans. So we come in over there where we are trying to grow more forest so that ecological system is maintained. And I think it's a quality that we need to start doing it more. Yeah, so that's a natural forest that was grown basically within a span of, so it takes a span of 10 years. As a natural forest, if you look into it, it takes many years than that. But with this particular system, we can grow the forest within 10 years of period. And this is something which was, which we have achieved within 5 years of time. Yeah, so this is another thing which we did for a project where landscaping was part of it, but then towards the periphery, we had a more natural forest growing, which led to a nice buffering of the property from the neighboring side. And at the same time, the ecological system was maintained or basically enhanced or boosted up in such a way that within years of time, we had a lot of birds. And this is within Bangalore urban. So there were hardly any birds or anything coming into that locality. But once we did that, we could see that a lot of quails and other birds, the kingfishers, and have started to come into the forest. They started making nests, which is an experience itself. So that whole ecological system is getting balanced just because of the fact that we were able to put up a patch of forest, not more than 100 square, basically, yeah, around 100, it was around 600 square feet of space, which was needed for it. But then, yeah, that made a lot of difference. Yeah, so this is that space that we're talking about. We had an urban land, basically an empty patch of land. And then we did a little bit of landscaping and gardening towards the periphery, and then within the premises, and then towards the periphery, we planted the forest. And this is the growth of the forest, which happened within 20 years of time. 20 months of time, sorry. So the beauty with natural forests is you don't have to really cater to them as what you have to do to the landscaping and the artificial ornamentation landscaping that we need to do. Since this is natural, so you just need to leave it as it is, and then with the natural leaves and things falling on it, you don't require to put any sort of manicures or any sort of fertilizer and stuff like that to it. It takes care of its own self, and then yeah, that's the best beauty. That's the beauty of having a natural forest which grows without any intervention by humans. So it's a self-sustainable thing, and the balance it provides with the whole system around helps even your landscape grow well. So here what we did was we came up with the concept of, instead of landscaping, which we came up with the concept of forestscaping, where we put forest as part of the scape. It's basically the whole system is designed in such a way that you have a building, we reduce the footprint of the building and create more spaces for the natural forest and natural landscaping around. So with respect to the urban, with respect to today's topic, if I look into it, how the spaces could be evolved, that urban spaces which are leftover spaces and which are not to be seen, which are not to be used as and it's always seen as a waste space. How can we really develop that into a nice forest, into a nice green patch? So this is what happens in a space which is leftover. It becomes a sewage-laden site. It was a sewage-laden site where a lot of mosquitoes and things were coming in, because there was some puddle of water which was out over there. Then from there, we took it into forest landscaping, where we designed the space in such a way that we could have maybe a pathway around it. And then you have trees around, which grew up. So you can see the transformation from one point to other at such a quick pace. And by December 2018, this is October, we are talking about October 2018, by December 2018, we had lush green trees coming out over there. So this is how in urban spaces, because yes, I understand there is scarcity of space in urban fabric. So the leftover spaces which are in plenty, look at your sides, highway sides, look at the sides of the medians, the leftover sides of the bridges, the leftover sides of like how we have over here, it is next to the flyover. So all these places could always be developed into forests, into natural patches, into natural green patches. Yes, this is another example. This is definitely a reference from Japan, where what they did was the median part that you see between the road, that was converted into a forest, and it was converted into a landscape patch. Not a landscape, I would say a forest-scaping patch, where the whole thing grew up within 10 years of time, and there is hardly any visibility out over there because of that natural green or the lush green forests out there. Yeah. So when it comes to forest-scaping, there are different ways that you can always look into it. It can always be integrated with the landscaping, and then come out with patterns where you have different activities happening within the forestscape area. You have the runways, or basically the pathways for jogging and stuff like that. You can have so this could be implemented into common urban spaces for parks, for public parks, for interpreted into for the houses that we are doing. So what we need to see is how we do it. So it is a very interesting, we can always find out very interesting ways to put across, and then come up with interesting ideas how to plant forest around us instead of doing manicured gardens and just leaving it plain grass out over there. So this is another, basically a development of it. Because see, the thing that we need to remember is a forest, or basically a natural tree vegetation is much more healthier than having basically a more polished or ornamented landscape, because that provides a thick buffering. It provides a good insulation from the sounds in case if you have the periphery of your houses, or even if it is towards the park, let's say if it is in the park area or towards the common public spaces, it provides a lot of buffering from the noise, it provides buffering from the pollution. So which automatically starts to change the ecology of the whole system. Basically, it starts to get the balance out right. It starts to balance things out. Yeah, so this is how we have started implementing upon the forest-scaping thing in projects as well, where the footprint of the houses are reduced. We are trying to, as an architect, I am trying to tell my clients to reduce the footprint of the house as minimal as possible, just depending upon what the basic needs are, and then catering to that basic needs for the house, and then leaving the rest of the place for forestry and not landscaping, I would say, but forest-scaping. So you've got a lot of green spaces around. When you're living into the house, you have a lot of light and things coming into the place. You have a lot of greenery when you see from the house, or whenever you're there in any part of a house, you should be able to see the green spaces. You should have the buffering. So here what we did was on the same concept of what I showed you earlier. We created a track within the site, within the property, with a lot of green trees being planted out over there. So the core, if you look at this part, the core of the forest is height, or basically the tall trees, and a lot of fruiting trees also, which are mixed with it. It's all natural, it's all local, within 100-kilometer radius of the place where it is stationed. All the trees are natural. There are nothing which has been bought out from other places. Because what happens is, in terms of landscaping and forestry, anything which is alien, any plant which is alien, it tends to provide shade, or basically in terms of growth, it starts at times hindering the growth of the natural vegetation over there. Because since it is it's brought in from outside, it tends to, how would I put it across? It tends to take away the energy from the local, or basically the local plants which are out over there. And then in turn, the local plants are not able to grow. So we try to reduce the usage of ornamental plants, and the plants being brought out from the outside, and use more native species. Yeah, so this is another shot of it where it shows basically the footprint of the building, which is minimized as minimal as possible, and more of landscape and more of forestscape area around. Yeah, so I'd like to finish over here, where thanks for your time and for looking at the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a very different one. Happy to know that in an urban scenario also you are attempting to try to do some forestry. You know, that's very good about it. So thank you.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I would like to second that. I hope you guys can hear me, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, Mr. Faizan, that was beautiful piece of knowledge indeed. Completely different outlook, especially the forestscaping. I'm sure it was a lot of interest for our viewers. So, thanks again. So great. Here we move towards the final layer, and I would like to invite our fifth panelist, who also happens to be our host today. So Mr. Harish Sethi. So today his topic is building and construction, feasibility of deviation from the existing construction practices for enabling future-ready homes. So every change introduces set of an innovation, and the innovation further brings in the progress. One who can conceptualize the new market trends with the existing construction practices holds the utmost feasibility and creativity. A new edition should be the outcome of the old efforts, while an entire flipped process might delay the results and lack the essence of traditional terms. So get ready for an interesting presentation. So over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Yeah, can I have the slide, please? Slide, please. Yeah. So what I'm going to speak rather is try to touch upon few things from the topic itself. That is feasibility of deviation from existing construction practices for enabling future ready homes. Feasibility here can mean many things. For whom is this feasibility that we are talking? User, buyer, investor, landowners, you know, or someone who wants to change the land use, redevelopment projects such as one of them, or is it for planners, bankers, or for somebody, or maybe political and other people, or the urbanity that they want to set up, you know, and from a point of view, and then the other extremely other point of view could be something like resources and environment. All this will come into play. In general, I see feasibility is actually a myth. It is actually a pseudo, as all reality projects, you know, are always utopian or capitalist. They have hard times to finish most of the time. So can a good feasibility report guarantee success and not be vulnerable to market trends and changing mindsets of stakeholder? No, that's little tough to say, but still we move on. Next slide, please. Okay, so now when we talk about something known as deviation, which is forced upon us, one slide please, backwards, ma'am. Yeah. So when we talk about deviation, you know, what is this deviation? This deviation has been brought about by COVID on us, and this is the time we can think forward, or probably we can realign our practices in some way to think forward. You know, deviation I could see is as, will construction industry change the production process from make to stock, you know, MTS, to make to order, and to make to assemble? Will this format of construction take over, or will there be some industries and architects supporting this to happen? Or can construction practices use more machinery to have less human interface and contact because of the current scenario of spread? And so that the industry as a whole can revive and rework itself to keep progress going on? Or will construction industry slowly change to precast construction technology or factory made precast living pods? Okay, so will this be another option that will be looked upon as time goes by? You know, living pods, you know, or will construction industry want to move to more greener materials and practices that is one option that they can look for as a marketing tool, or maybe really sensitive to the nature and question themselves why they want to build, how much to build, who are their real user or market, and so on. Next, please. Yeah. So enabling. So how does one enable, or what does it actually mean? Enabling, will one have the option to choose finishes or say customize one's house? Okay, will this option be open up, or will this format change? like we have Amazon and other things where we have lots of options to choose. We compare rates, compare brands, can slowly in the smart scenarios of the way new digital marketing, can this enabling start, and so that we can choose customized materials, if not sizes of the houses, at least the finishes of the houses, which can shuffle our pocket uh, outgoings. Can this also open up new things, like can one buy back or upgrade scheme in housing or marketing strategies? Can there be this possibility before I register? Can this possibility be open and things like that, and become a little more simpler and legal in the process, or as a marketing tool? Will it be possible to undo, unlock, block capital that so much of investment goes into a flat and so on? Okay, will these things change? Will there be a reverse mortgage process? We many a times do this with the car. We have a car. Sometimes we own for 2-3 years and then change the car, so that we don't have too much of maintenance on the car, so that the first 3-4 years it's maintained by the company itself and has very little breakdown, and then we change the car to a new one, and so on. Can that happen with the flat also? Maybe we change the size, we move to a different place or whatever, or in general a reverse mortgage logic. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what is future ready for us? Future ready here could mean many things. For is the houses that we design or we look into are ready for the new formats of living and relationships? Be as simple as work from home format, or living relationship, or working in different hours. Is that house is designed for that? Somebody works in a call center, so he works from home at night. Somebody works in some other, maybe education or some schooling, he uses the platform in the day, and so on. Or can the logic itself start changing? Can 3 BHK become 3 OHK? Is it possible? Will our design facilitate? From 3 BHK, can we start making houses which are actually 3 or triple occupant hall kitchen, or they can suddenly something can get converted into rental housing? The same thing was mentioned by Hiten Sethi. One of his projects has been reworked. Can we get into something known as smart home, or will our homes become smart enough in the long run? That can be smart, not just touchless or in technology wise, but into smart in a totally different way. That can they become knockdown, takeaway, or plug-in type houses in the years to come by? These are tougher things to look into it. But maybe in certain smaller pockets, some new ventures will happen where we can have knockdown houses, and take it away from one place to the other, set it up again, or plug into some types to services and something like. These are ideas which are there from 60s, but not some projects have happened, and some, due to so many reasons, not many have happened through. But these are ideas that we can look forward in future to come. So that's where it stands. Okay. Thank you. So these were my views for everybody to think and ponder over. Okay, so we all have done. So let's open up a small panel discussion. Let me start asking, each of the panelists before me a small question. They can give their ideas and views to the, yeah. Okay, let's start with Hiten, who went first. Okay, Hiten, you have covered lots of issues and lots of concerns that are raised, but I have a small thing. Will the future change happen will the slang change? Slang, we are very much used to this housing industry. We always say 2 BHK, 2.5 BHK, 3 BHK, and so on. Will this change to something known as 2 BHK plus 0.5 O, which O means of online office at home or classroom, or which has an attached toilet? Okay, or something like 3 BHK plus 0.5 IR, where IR could mean isolation room in this current scenario. An isolation room can be for all purposes. It can be isolation for running your small office without disturbance. It could be an isolation for a small child where he can attend online classes. and so on and on, which will have an attached toilet, or maybe something in a different version like 2 BHK plus PG, where PG means private garden. So since that we, for hygiene reasons and social distancing, we don't go to common spaces, so can this private garden become our own soul searching, energy building interaction that we can do with gardens? Okay,
In
so
fact, yeah, Harish, it's
yes.
a very interesting question. And, you know, actually, we've been incorporating these kind of design philosophies in a couple of our projects, which we designed even 8 years back. So, this is not today's need. I mean, it is being realized today is a different matter altogether. It was a need which was there right from beginning. India is not a very, it's a place where we are very price sensitive people always, So, being professionals and being responsible to our duties, it was always required that we have a half BHK, which you used to call a study room earlier. Now it can be converted into that study room had a multiple users. It can be used for your offices or whatever. The way you explain the things for different users, it can be used as a multiple house. Yes, I think with these 3 months of 3 months of this lockdown, one thing is for sure that work from home is going to stay in India also. So the trends are going to be to have some additional space, a private space for such kind of activities. Secondly, we have actually done some couple of projects in Nerul where we actually have created the terrace gardens kind of concepts in the common areas connected to kitchen or something on every floor. I have not even provided windows like what we do in our common lobbies and all those things, so that the air quality is maintained. And with these kind of shades which come in, I mean, there's always a safeguard of direct sunlight and winds happening. So I think these are concepts which were already organized, being done at various places, because when, as I told you, that today in today's technology gives you analytical results of whatever you've designed. And I've been implementing this sustainable architecture part in analytics for more than a decade now. So eventually, all designs with these particular features always become more better in terms of quality of life, which can be given into various apartments. So definitely, I don't think there is anything new which is happening in terms of the typologies of flats which will be there, 2 BHK and 2.5 BHKs. But I think it was still there. It's going to remain the way it is. The interiors definitely is going to see a major change of how these kind of private spaces or pods will be added in terms of the interior design of a particular flat. Moreover, in community spaces, as I told you, I think it will be more observant that now buildings, huge residential complexes will start having small office complexes. You maybe call it a business center or something, which will be much more organized in terms of workstations and or small conference meeting rooms, which will see more light of the day. So individually, it becomes at one level, it definitely becomes a private space of working. But I think if work from home also needs a meeting rooms and all those kind of things. So society as a society or as a building, community spaces will always see more elaborate business offices or business spaces being introduced as a part of design features now.
Okay, so that's good. So you mean that there'll be additional to the other amenities, there'll be some small conference room amenities or smaller version with some in
Business
the
business business
business
spaces, yes,
center, yeah. So which can be
business
shared by the people of the society to interact with outside.
yes.
Yeah, if at all, so that they don't come right into the gated community, but at the edge the interaction happens.
They don't come to your flats.
Yeah.
So they are at least at the lobby areas and
Yeah, oh, that's a good thing. Surely it will be taken up in the time to come as the market demands happen. And
so
okay,
we
so
actually have been putting in these, like I did IT Park in Vashi. We actually created a huge meetings and boardrooms for common users as a free amenity to the people who are using this thing. So because smart usage of spaces has always been forte of Mumbai architects. I mean, so that's how these kind of spaces have been introduced earlier. Now it will more projects will look for solutions like these.
also, do you see that there will be small changes because of this hand wash and other things that are coming by, which is becoming essential, will be because
Yeah,
most
so
of the flats designed, the toilets go behind, they will start coming front. I mean, so as soon as you open the front door, there will be adjacent door, might be a toilet.
So there's definitely lots of, as I told you, the lifts are being, we see WhatsApp, how the lifts are being used, and new kind of kind of fixtures are being created to make sure that the hygiene is private and personal. I mean, so I mean, everywhere I think use of hands, direct touches will to the surfaces will be one major concern for all architects and designers. So already taps, the companies, plumbing and sanitary plumbing companies have already started working on ergonomics of typologies in which these kind of things can be given. Not everybody can afford automatic systems. So more of mechanical systems are being worked into so that it becomes more efficient and robust systems, which will be the talk of tomorrow. Similarly, WCs and all those kind of things they're seeing the seat covers and all those things are also seeing some sort of changes or design additions happening, intrusions happening, so that these particular things also become hands-free in terms of usages.
So as slowly as time goes, a sea of small changes will come in and get incorporated, and we will get used to it.
And they're going to be here to stay. I mean,
and they'll be staying.
Yes.
And the economics, I mean, initially it might start with minor changes in the existing half-done projects, and then slowly new ones will take it up.
Yeah, so any mass productions, you see the thermal scans, which we're using now. When 3 months back, each a piece was available for 9,000 rupees on Amazon, and today it is available at 2,000 rupees. So each things when have a usage in mass definitely sees a more economy in terms of buyouts and manufacturing. So definitely, with passage of time, all the features what we are thinking is going to be there. But let me tell you, the smart intelligent systems are definitely going to be a major important part of role. I mean, we have automation systems where you don't use. Let's talk, because I was given a subject for the flats and residential dwellings. I'm just focusing myself to that. So even the flats, moving your curtain with your hands and you're moving with your mobiles, definitely has a one step over benefit of being more hygiene in terms of these kind of pandemics during this time of time. Similarly, use of ACs and everything. So whatever the way automation has become a part of your industry overall, now I think it will enter household, each and every household, and be a part of that household. Hello.
Rohit, do you see there will be a total change in finish and fixtures used in the future homes? More so in the common spaces, that is contact surfaces which are easy to clean and sanitize, or say handle-less knobs or knob-less tabs, or voice receptive switches, and maybe in the lift itself to start with, voice receptive switches. And soon we will be staying in smart, wired, touchless homes and environment.
Yeah, we are actually. You know, the Schindler has come out. I was in CTBH in Dubai when Schindler launched its lift, which interfaces with your mobile. So the intelligence systems are being developed to such an extent that seeing your artificial intelligence is being introduced into every system. So your personal habits of coming and going to your flat, to your residences, would be recorded, synced with your mobiles. So for example, if you have a habit of leaving, you're a principal, you must be leaving at what 7 o'clock from your home, or 7:30 of your home.
Always.
So the lift will automatically come at 7:30, knowing your patterns when it is fed after using of sometimes, and it will stop for you for some seconds at your floor, and then you come at the same time it will. So even the doors won't have switches and all those things, because if it's a recognized mobile number which is recognized by the sensors, they know that as soon as you enter one particular barricade, you'll be going to floor number 24th or 6th number. And so there is no use of your hands and contacts which will be required. So that's what I'm saying. With changing of this particular time, when we have seen that the pandemic situation and contact distance-free environment is most important thing. So it is something which is going to see the elaborate use in each and every household. there is a Cushman Wakefield had come out with a 6 feet standard presentation in one of my webinars which I was seeing. So they actually were talking about everything is going to be 6 feet apart. I mean, this is a standard rule which is going to be there for a long time. People sitting to each other, people talking with each other. So in case of these, till the time it settles down or vaccination comes in, I think next 2 years, I think we're going to see this kind of thing being more adopted by sensible people.
Oh, that's good. Let's take a view from Rohit, please, on the same question. Rohit, please, unmute, please.
Yes. Obviously, yes. Going with knobless doors, going with lifts which would work on maybe on face recognition, maybe on verbal commands is obviously going to be the need, because if at all you see.
Rohit, I'm not very sure. Are you unmute or?
Yes, I am unmute, I guess. I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah, please go on.
Yes, speaking about the question that you asked, yes, obviously the knobless doors as well as the lifts which will work on maybe on face recognition, maybe verbal commands or something like that. Obviously, that is going to be an important thing. And as what he mentioned right now, that yes, if at all it's an artificial intelligence kind of thing, that if at all I leave my home by about 7:30 in the morning, the lift is going to be there by 7:30 in the morning and it's going to carry me wherever I'm supposed to go. So that is going to be one of the great things that would come in. But at the end of the day, the question is going to be how much are we going to shell out for all these things? How much is this actually going to be practical for a common man to take place? But yes, the need would be very, very important, because the amount of fear and the amount of awareness that has been there in everybody's mind about being socially distanced from everybody, as well as not touching things which are not known to us, and being away from the virus contamination. Yes, these things are going to be very, very important. Maybe that is outside the house as well as inside the house also. So common places also, we would need much more technology which can disinfect the place at regular intervals, as well as we could have some places which could be more resistant to these viruses or something like that. That is what the technology would be expected in the future homes, according to me. Hello.
So that's good. So what you're trying to say is a lot of things will change due to contact and hygiene reasons as we go on for some time.
Absolutely.
Or maybe, or once they are in, they might stay for a longer time, because as culturally we are also we love neatness as a cultural coefficient that we have as an Indian culture. So we'll continue. We have lost it over time in modern scenarios. We will get back to our roots and continue the same as we go on. Okay, I have a small question for Zenobia ma'am. Okay, with this change that is happening, will mankind, to maintain social distancing, change from being a social animal and start living in a social media, or look for happiness within oneself or soul, or get on more seriously to activities such as yoga, meditation, or maybe as age and people can get into Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavad Gita, or maybe they will get into other oriental versions of search, soul search, or being, something like Ikigai, maybe.
Actually, I believe that you only have to find yourself. Everything else you can Google.
Okay.
Just try one thing. Same thing what I said earlier. Give yourself time, do the things you love, even work. Like I saw Mr. Faizan is so passionate about greenery and about landscaping. If he worked 18 hours a day, it will not be work. It will be something he loves. So start focusing on what you love. And if you do what you love, okay, it will be just a different ball game altogether. And I really believe you should touch doorknobs and you should open your own and you should get into a lift. If the body becomes completely, apt that you do nothing, you'll start getting arthritis, you'll start getting other problems. When people used to cycle, their knees used to be fine. Now we sit in a car, we don't walk. Now there are fancy gyms, with cycles in it. Why do you need to do that? Go on a landscape drive and put your bicycle in the car and drive. Cycle in the fields. What we are forgetting is the human touch. It's very, very important. All the luxuries and noblesse curtains and all is fine. But every time you draw your curtain, you're actually doing an exercise for your shoulders. You'll never get frozen shoulders. So those that already are in all these luxuries, please make sure that this body you give a little value to. Time you give value to. And I'm not saying meditate. Most people say, oh, what is this? Meditation has now become a fad. We are meditating, but all negative thoughts are coming in our minds at that time. But we do it so everybody sees that I'm meditating. Do exactly what your body tells you. Your body will always give you instructions. Follow your inner self and your higher self. Listening to music is a very beautiful thing. Music is a healer apart from meditation. And breathe. The secret is doing 10 minutes of breathing a day. Conscious breathing. It'll improve your lungs, improve your vital organs. Very, very important. Few points that even Mr. Hiten said was so wonderful. You have to follow all these. All the people that are listening today, try and do what the speakers have said. Then you will find a change. If you do the same thing, you'll get the same results. You do things differently, start gardening, start increasing nature into your life, then definitely more good will come your way.
That's
Thank
good. That's good. So hope we will all try to start doing some way or the other. I'm sure some in this lockdown period, people must have looked a little more seriously into the plants that they have, taken care, or they have catch their attention and must have worked on it for sure, because they have all the time to be in house and they must have tried to revive it also. Yeah. So okay, let's have a question for Faizan here, please. Okay, Faizan, what do you think? Will the urban rich move to the suburb or the countryside to stay in a resilient gated communities, or in large mansion where they will maintain social distancing from society because they can do so, and live in large mansions, and so social distancing from society physically, but be connected via web or social media to the world, So do you feel that approach will change things?
Yeah, Harish, thanks for the question. See, let me put it this way. When we talk about the urban rich, it is a very minimal number that we are talking about. It's just maybe 10% of the whole population. The urban rich is not the people that we want to move out of, because when we want to declutter somebody, it's not the little percentage that we want to declutter. So the whole idea lies into the fact that the system, the social fabric that has been designed, and it is part of the process which has happened all these years. That is, everything is clustered towards one CBDs. Everything is in the cities. Everything is working within that. So that whole, basically, as architect, as social entrepreneurs, as people, we need to work around where we need to decongest the cities. We need to declutter our cities. We need to move the power centers, or basically the administrative centers, away from one place as such. For example, let's say if you take Mumbai, Mumbai doesn't have a place to expand. It is an island. So where are you going to expand? Let's say Bangalore. Bangalore doesn't have much of place. Everything is well happening within Bangalore. You take a Vidhan Sautha, you take a capital complex, everything is within the city limits. You need to decongest it. So that initiative of smart cities is a very good initiative by the government, and if it is followed well, it is going to be a game-changing, or basically a path-breaking thing, because what is going to happen in this situation is your central things, basically your let's say administrative because every city has got an administrative center, basically a public center, a legal center. So you need to start placing it in different places. Maybe let's say if something is in Mumbai, you put something in Pune, you something else in some other place. So what will happen is automatically your workforce will start decongesting. It will start going away from the city. So what will happen is it is not the urban rich we are talking about over here. It is the urban middle class, the urban upper middle class that needs to go away from the city or basically decongest the city. In that situation, the good thing which is going to happen is you will get more area, the more natural, more land space which will be there. So in that situation, what will happen is you again will have two systems which are going to come into picture. Which will come into picture. That is at micro level and macro level. So when you have more land, you start growing landscaping, you start doing forestry in your apartment complex because there will be more space in that. Your cities will have more open spaces. You start growing forests in that. It will start becoming green. So that what will start to happen? It will become a change where things will be all set in different areas. It will be all decluttered. Basically the point that we are looking over here is to declutter the cities, and unlike what we have today is where everybody is coming down to a bigger city, be it Delhi, be it Mumbai, be it Bengaluru, they are all coming to one city, which has to change. If it is not changing, we are going to be in a serious situation in times to come, because as it is rightly said that is the only constant is change. So unless until we start changing, we start developing, we start moving out, cities will be dead. That is what the basic principle of urban planning or urban cities are, that if you don't grow, it is going to be dead in due course of time because there'll be no place at all. So yeah, that we need to look into the fact that we declutter the city, we decongest the cities.
Okay, that's good. If any of the other panelists have something to say
Paresh,
about the questions.
I'll like to add
Please add.
to Faizan's viewpoint. You see, what happens is, Faizan, what I've studied and seen the patterns of the growth of the cities. So all these administrative buildings and complexes which will normally come at the time when there are no development. Like for example, I'm in Mumbai. So when CST came in, station came in, there was no development there. The universities came in, there was no development there. It's over the periods of ages that these particular things become the crowd puller, and the whole density increases move around this particular thing. So there's no way you will be able to change a particular trend into making a particular thing till the time you have very stringent urban planning norms, for future plans for coming years. Unfortunately, businesses are changing. You said very rightly that changes are constant. But what happens is, changes are constant is good, but changes are so dramatic and so complex that the whole development is becoming dynamic day by day. I stay in Navi Mumbai, which was supposed to be an ideal creation by Charles Correa as a satellite city to decongest Mumbai, right? And over 30 years now, I see. We all see that even Navi Mumbai is becoming congested now. So this process is always going to happen. So I did papers in our paper in US, in which we came to a particular solution. The polycentric development is the need of an hour. So what happens is polycentric development is all the networks, transportation networks become your TODs, which are normally very high density TODs, 500 meter away from or 500 meter radius all around the TODs, public transport system, so that everything becomes walkable and this thing. And then the development start happening polycentrically after some distances, So those distances are made into self-contained townships. Perhaps maybe like 100 acres or 200 acres townships, in which it is planned to be done like this. Now, MMRDA in Mumbai and Maharashtra have followed the same kind of things and have started, when CIDCO came in 71. NANA has now come in 2018, I think 17. So now NANA was seeing some issues politically and practical wise, because they thought a very ideal solution this will go. The scheme didn't go off. So they immediately came out with another development of MSRDC. So, but the trends of everybody, urban planners and the visionaries, are going towards polycentric developments. So what Harish was asking was, in a very individualistic answer is, yes, of course, everybody would like to have a farmhouse, right? I like to come to Bangalore and have a farmhouse there. I mean, such a beautiful weather. But practically, if you see, it cannot be looked into an isolation of an individual person's need.
I agree.
The moment is definitely going to be this thing, and the population what we have in urban middle class is so huge that no policy will be successful if you don't address to the lifestyles of their cities. So only the bottom line is their connectivity and the transportation system has to be so robust that all these particular things are well synergized and connected with each other.
True. True. Mr. Sethi, I totally agree to whatever points that you just mentioned, because those are the things which I actually wanted to convey, and then you have put it very, very, the way that you put it across is something which I definitely wanted to people to understand. So now the only thing is, as you said for Mumbai, let me talk about Bangalore. So what's happening in Bangalore is it's an IT hub. It's an IT capital of India, if you put it across this way. So what has happened is it was a sudden growth happened because of the IT sector in Bangalore. So the IT sector was brought in over here and everybody started to come to Bangalore, and even now the same thing has been happening. So because of that, the kind of problem that we are started to face in terms of your traffic, in terms of your lack of infrastructure is there, but then the growth never happened. The infrastructure growth never happened in parallels to the way IT sector was growing. So then the call of today, or basically what we need to do today, is at least start to decenter these situations where basically those companies who are coming in over here, instead of Bangalore, we can start to look out places nearby Bangalore and start to expand in that terms, which is not happening, and which is not happening for many states. Let's say for Delhi. Delhi has started growing into NCR. Yes, now it has gone into Gurgaon and Noida as well. So because even as of now, if you look at Delhi, it is full. There is no other place to extend. So we need to start looking into, we need to learn from them and start to implement into other cities as well. So let's say what's happening in Bangalore, what's happening in any other bigger states, that's what is happening. For example, there are a lot of other states, let's say UP, let me take example of Uttar Pradesh. It's a big state. There is land, there is resources, everything is there. Why aren't we moving all these things out over there? Why aren't we putting things over there? So definitely there are a lot of aspects which are related to it, where the government also needs to come into picture, and they need to provide those policies and things which will, at the end of the day, will provide make the guidelines for everybody to work upon. So yeah, that's the point. So my urge to everybody and to everybody whom we meet is to look into the fact that the policy should be made in such a way that everything starts to get decluttered and decentered, so that everybody has got their own space. And as Harish and as everybody is saying, that everybody would love to have a farmhouse somewhere outside, and most of these rich guys have they have a farmhouse in the outskirts suburban, but they still want to live in the center because business is happening over there at the end of the day. As soon as the builder business moves out, they will also start to move out. Even if they're living over there, then there won't be any problem as such, because anyways, most of the masses have moved out to nearby places or in the suburbs. Yeah, so that's my point to it.
That's a good viewpoint. Yeah, we can take some questions from that have popped up here. So so let's take up a question from from one of the when the chat question has come up. Okay, let's see what's there. Yeah, we have Datta has asked a question: what will be the cost that you are looking at for future homes with all latest technology you are using in? So it can be a square foot cost. So any idea if anybody can throw in?
I can tell you. Now, if you'd have to do a automation, see, it's all depends upon how much detailing you want to do it. What are the features you want to get into? It's again the same thing. You want to buy a Maruti 800 or you want to buy a Mercedes. So, but I can tell you the range which happened for a 3 BHK house. If you really want automation done with 8 controls of your light, curtains, and fans, and perhaps air conditioning, it may be a lump sum of around 3.5 lakh square feet or something like that. But in a similar house, I have also spent more than 20 lakh rupees for the detailing of automation, which gives you more further control with your televisions, with your audio controls, with your speaker system. So it all depends upon what kind of systems you want to integrate. In bigger complexes, where, for example, I'm doing cancer hospitals, they're the kind of automation which we do, though I'm spending more than 1.5 crore rupees into the automation software and systems, but the cost saving and the life cycle is so big that my systems on HR, which I'm reducing the cost of people you doing those kind of works, vis-a-vis it becomes very economical. So to consider as a per square foot for a residential flat, it's a very simple question. But if you go bigger with your volumes, then I think it will be not wise to just see at the capital cost of the automation systems. you will have to compare it with the kind of functions where the money is being saved in terms of operations by installing these kind of systems. It may be in saving of energy, it may be in saving of manpower, it may be in saving of in operational time, making more efficiency. So that's the kind of cost benefit analysis we need to do once we decide what kind of systems can project consume.
Okay. Let's take the next question. It's by Deepak More. In smaller flat, is it possible to accommodate study room or work from home cabin over toilet or bathroom by creating a mezzanine? Will it require change of floor or slab heights? It's just
नहीं वो तो हो नहीं सकता because normally all smaller flats it will only become economical if you have economical heights.
Yeah.
Higher you go and more volumes you do. So normally in we are so much optimizing our engineering and design patterns in that we don't even want to spend money on lintels when it comes to putting things together. So we try to make your heights in such a way that your depths of RCC beams actually become the lintel itself. So when your value engineering is to such an extent that in especially urban cities like Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, so you won't have that benefit of height where you can actually create two levels on top of that. But nevertheless, I would never rule out an option where I cannot do a furniture design in such a way that the whole activities which your bed can be changed into a study table. So it can be a total dynamic design which you actually design your products in such a way that they have a multiple use from time to time.
Okay. Let's see what else is up here.
But I don't know what the Vastu our specialist have to say
workspace about toilet.
Work. Yeah. I think that will be interesting listening to her.
Ma'am, please.
Can
you unmute yourself?
This holds in case we have that kind of height over there to accommodate a study above the toilet, subjected to the fact that that kind of height is there.
In Vastu, the place of education is the northeast. And I totally believe that if northeast of the house is respected, entrance from the northeast, entrance from the north, and if a family prays together, no matter which side they are, the children will be educated in the right way. And can you repeat your question?
No. So we were discussing. So we got this question where I said normally the flats in Mumbai don't have that kind of height where we can have two levels of usable space, maybe toilets or kitchen. So, but I said, in interiors, you can design your furnitures for multiple uses in such a way that you have beautiful detailing in which your beds can roll out and the whole one flap can come down and become a study table or something like that. So I was telling that. So I said it will be very interesting to ask from Zenobia ji that if these kind of multifunctional designing are in tune
It is beautiful. Yeah, these kind of designs are beautiful. In fact, you should not stick your bed to the floor. It's better not to have your beds marbled on the floor. A little bit of air flowing between the floor and you is very good. And these innovations are beautiful. Innovation is a wonderful thing. In fact, every flat, everything should have innovation. Even today, Apple is the #1 phone because of innovation. So if architects innovate in different ways, tables folding, otherwise folding up again for eating, certain things that give more space. At the end of the day, your innovation should get more space around you. In today's day and age in flats and buildings, space is the thing where you can't have. So that is really what I feel.
That's good. So let's have a question from someone who has raised his hand. Sai Ganesh, we try to connect you. Please ask your question to the panelist. Sai Ganesh. Are you unmuted, please? Sai Ganesh, are you there? Okay, we'll take someone else, please. So let's have another question. Okay. So let's take Pramod. Pramod has asked, behavioral patterns are bound to change drastically as time passes by, but it is sure that there will be some sense of hygiene infused within people. My question is, we have long been shifting and switching from small neighborhood stores to grocery and laundry to large supermarkets to avail the economic and the experiential benefit. So do the panelists think that mixed use development in is going to be embraced more in the future, keeping in mind the current conditions of pandemic? Anybody can take this question, please.
So, the mixed use development definitely is going to be is the future. As I told you, the co-sharing spaces which are being introduced now, which were there in offices earlier, now are being introduced even in residentials. So similarly, you will see more type of patterns. You may see, I mean, go to Parel and you will see the showrooms which are boutique showrooms in the morning turning into lounges in the evening. So these kind of patterns coexist as the requirement of the society demands. So it's all about demand and supply kind of situations. So yes, I mean, mixed use is there going to stay. In specific, if you really want to put a question that what kind of mixed use is going to stay, I think as they say, change is constant, so it keeps on evolving. So I've done L&T Seawoods, if you have seen the Grand Central. So we didn't have a residential component when we started with the design first. And we had all commercial complex and malls only at theaters and all, which were designed as a part of my scheme. But eventually when the market, we saw 4 to 5 years of construction, we realized that things are not happening in terms of, markets will not be that robust in terms of commercial. So we took a permission to convert the part of the Dharaway land into residential. In fact, it has become so beautiful that it's a walk to business culture now. So people was going to stay. I mean, it's going to get handed over in next 4 to 5 years now. So, so people are just going to walk to their offices. You want to go to a mall, you have 11 theaters just below your floor. You just have to walk 300 meters through beautiful gardens. So what city? So we, as architects, we're all trying to get cities into your homes to whatever benefits you can do, so that your behavior patterns behavior patterns and needs are being taken care by efficient planning.
Okay. Okay, let's take one more question that's here by Jyoti. The question is, how will the future planning and allocation of spaces change for younger generation? Where will they have space to let down their energy?
The energy part, Zenobia will tell.
Yeah, everybody can. Maybe Farooq also can look into it.
Today
Faizan
when
can
we
also.
have space, we don't take our children to the park. We prefer to go and sit in a mall and, let them. Open spaces where you should take your children to.
Yeah.
I truly believe
Can't
that.
agree. We can't agree more than Zenobia ji, what she said right now. Because it's not that there is scarcity of places or spaces around. It is just that we are not giving the right direction to our kids at times, maybe because we are just handling them with a laptop or a tablet where they're not able to burst out the energy. Just that they're playing game on it, where instead of going out to the field and just bursting out with energy over there. So I think even in today's scenario, it's not that anything has changed. We still have a lot of places, public places are there, even in the apartments and even in the houses. If we were living at there are a lot of public parks which are there. We can always go. The kids can always go out over there and play. But yes, the change that we are seeing is it is not happening that way. They're still stuck onto their tablets and mobile phones and TVs, which as parents, as adults, we need to monitor them more, and then basically ask them to go out and play than to be inside the house.
One musical instrument and one sport, and your children will never go wrong. Inculcate these two things.
Agreed.
One sport, play with your child, one musical instrument, I believe.
So all the football and cricket which is happening these days are on your video games, not on the field.
Yeah. So I get lot of information, lot of viewpoints which are different. We have to sit down and think and move forward the way, or probably we have to take time out for ourselves, understand in a different pattern, and life will be much different from here on. Things will be different, environments will be different, all our actions will change over a period of time. Okay, so I think we will take an end to this session. Thank you for all being here. Thank you so much. Thank you for every panelist. Thank you, Zenobia. Thank you, Hiten. Thank you, Faizan. Thank you, Rohit. And thank you, the organization, for setting this interaction and going live with everybody. Some points to think over, and hopefully we will ponder over it, and in time to come, we will make something more worthy of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Harish.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God.
Mm.